The EU had a horrifying impact on the steel industry in Britain, Conservative MP John Redwood has claimed in an interview with Express. After almost a year of negotiations and multiple missed deadlines, Britain and the EU secured a post-Brexit trade deal last month. Announced on Christmas Eve, Prime Minister Boris Johnson described it as a jumbo Canada-style deal and declared, "All our red lines about returning sovereignty have been achieved. Everything that the British public were promised during the 2016 referendum and in the general election last year is delivered by this deal. The deal is fantastic news for families and businesses in every part of the UK. We have signed the first free trade agreement based on zero tariffs and zero quotas that has ever been achieved with the EU." 2 days before the end of the transition period, January 1, MPs overwhelmingly approved the agreement in a parliamentary vote. As Britain begins its new chapter outside the bloc, in an exclusive interview with Express.co.uk, Conservative MP John Redwood has shed light on the numerous opportunities Brexit will bring in the near future. In particular, the prominent Eurosceptic argued the steel industry will greatly benefit from Britain's departure. He said, "I hope we can have much better policies now we are in charge of our own grant and tax regimes, which were of course under EU control in ways which usually favored continental producers. I am data-driven on the economics. I looked at the facts and it was very interesting to see that 20 years before we entered the European club, we had a growth rate twice as high as the growth rate we have been enjoying in the single market. And if you take the first decade of that membership, there was a very big collapse in the steel industry. The car industry halved in volume. Margaret Thatcher had to patiently rebuild that in the 80s, getting Japanese investments in. The UK wasn't ready for the shock of tariffs free from the continent," the MP added, "and as a result when the UK joined the EU we had a 45 million tons a year steel industry. Today we are battling to save an 11 million tons industry." Steel was not the only industry greatly damaged by entering the European Economic Community (EEC), though. According to Mr. Redwood, EEC membership also led to the slow death of England as an apple-growing country. Mr. Redwood said, "I remember the structure of our orchards very well. I am originally from Kent, and I remember it being called the Garden of England. There were many, many orchards, producing not just Bramleys but also the famous Cocks and other great eating apples.